All right, so we're going to do something slightly different this time, and that is we don't actually know what we're going to talk about, but I've come up with a question that I'm going to ask Andrew that hopefully spirals some more discussion, because typically what happens is we'll do all the good talking and then be like, oh shit, we should record this, as opposed to just letting it come out fresh, which maybe that helps. So we'll see how this goes. Ready for the question?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I have two questions. We'll go to the second one if this washes up. What is an appropriate use for a Swiss ball?
There aren't really many.
No, exactly.
I think. Does this have to do with the video you just showed me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think an appropriate use, in my opinion, one of my mentors, Eric Traeger, one of the first things I learned from this guy was, what are you sacrificing when you're balancing up on a Swiss ball? You're sacrificing load like crazy.
Yeah.
So that classic photo of that guy on Google, or if you just Google nonsense, workout nonsense, there's that guy back squatting 135 above parallel,
Yeah.
in big old white New Balance shoes on a half deflated Swiss ball,
Yeah.
stability ball, and it's like, okay, I mean, that's great. I don't really understand how that's practical or functional or anything like that. There's such better ways to stabilize your knee, and the ground that we walk on, the ground that we play on, isn't moving.
Yeah.
It's not deflating and stuff like that. So I think you can do some really awesome ab movements. I think you do some really good hamstring movements. I think they're really good for rehab, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So our chiro, a little shout out to Dr. Maddock. Dr. Maddock probably has some great movements for shoulder mobility and shoulder stability stuff. I'm sure in gymnastics they do some great things as well. But I think in general, for the general population, whatever movement you're going to do on a stability ball, just do it on the ground.
Right.
I mean, so aside from burnout and the risk to reward.
Yeah.
So if you're at a gym by yourself and you're gonna try and get up on a stability ball with even the barbell,
Right.
well, let's say 135, let's say 225. Is that something you want to do and deal with that for a year, or would you rather just back squat 135 in December of 2016 and then December of 2017 back squat 315 because you've been back squatting the whole time,
Right.
on the ground?
So the thing that I see with the Swiss ball is sort of a metaphor for unnecessarily creative.
Oh, yeah,
Right? Doing things that you feel like I have found the secret. I have found a shortcut, the accelerated way to do what other people, because they're too stupid and they're too inside the box, refuse to acknowledge. I am the pariah of the new Swiss ball movement. And you see that with Bosu balls, you see that with Swiss balls, you see that with TRX bands, you see that with people getting weird, unconventional, like stacking up the dumbbells and doing handstand push-ups off of them. And it's this sort of endless, it's sort of like to take it to like the food industry and to take it to like restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you have a really good donut. It is just perfect in every way. It's just the right amount of sweet. It's just the right amount of fat. The frosting is good. It's fresh. It's warm. All this good stuff about a wonderful donut. And then you have another donut that's not quite as good, but you put bacon on it, and then you slice it in half. You make it into a cheeseburger, and then you deep fry that whole thing. And basically, you have a shittier, novel monstrosity as opposed to just the good basic thing.
Yeah.
And in fitness, that looks like doing a movement in a way that the movement wasn't supposed to be done, just to add one little extra chain or flare or novelty or element that you think, oh, this is going to engage my balance or my grip in some non-conventional way. And then what you end up doing is you do two things shitty rather than doing one thing well.
Yeah.
To me, that's that sign of the
Very
metaphor as to what this represents.
And I think it's a great metaphor because Facebook feeds are just slammed with like food stuff now.
Yeah.
And like I feel like every day there's something that's like the ultimate milkshake or the ultimate ice cream sundae or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like instead of The ultimate milkshake. I pulled some pictures up. Ultimate milkshake is a vanilla milkshake with a donut and then a cookie stacked on top, then a bunch of Oreos, another donut, then a waffle, and then a straw, and then Twizzlers and all that shit. I was like, which is a bunch of stuff like jammed together.
Put together, yeah.
There's nothing good. There's nothing like great or unique about that as opposed to a good milkshake.
Right.
I mean, it's probably cool and it's novel, but it's not something you typically would want to do next weekend or the next weekend or the next weekend.
Right.
You do it once and then you're done with it for the rest of your life forever.
Right.
And that handstand push-up thing that you mentioned, I'm sure a lot of people have seen that videos, the kind of the gym fails. It's you want to start by giving the guy props because he can do a cool handstand thing. That's awesome. But you look at the photo of this guy and he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dumbbells stacked on top.
I can put a photo of it up.
Yeah, I on a basketball floor.
Yeah.
And all he's doing is, I don't even know what he actually does. If he does a handstand push-up and he goes to basically here.
I've seen the video. It's a legit handstand push-up.
That's great. All you need is 2 dumbbells though.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All he's doing is increasing the risk. And if that was your job, like if you're a Cirque du Soleil person and you had to like do that, then that would be applicable to what you do. That is maybe the risk of going on the basketball court is kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
But maybe that's somewhat applicable. I'm sure they train much smarter than that though.
Right.
But all you're doing is adding risk. And same thing when you put 135 on your back and you hop on a stability ball. You're just adding risk like an idiot.
Right.
And trainers that promote that are drive me crazy. This isn't the best judger, and we've chatted about this a lot, especially since we're both coaches and we've had kind of injuries, so we haven't been able to train, and maybe we're not big and jacked and all this.
Right.
But when the guy doing it isn't super big and jacked, doesn't have big legs, big quads, big butt, big something,
or some sort of performance outlet that's not just like a one-trick pony.
Something that's impressive in the physical world.
Yeah.
And the trainer is some like old dude that's not impressive, and he has no credentials, and he has no performance background, no nothing.
Yeah.
Other than maybe his NASM cert or something, and he's the guy that, like you said, cracked the code to do creative, crazy things that stimulate the CNS, so in turn there's more muscle growth. He's confusing the muscles and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, all these podcasts when it comes to fitness are probably going to come back to, deadlift, squat, and press and pull up. Deadlift, squat, press, and pull up.
Yeah.
And if you do that, if you know nothing about fitness, if you did that and add a couple reps and add 5 pounds here, and you did that for a year, you would change your body dramatically.
Yeah. Well, and I think the reason why it's so prevalent is because, I think as humans we're sort of prone to this idea of novelty and excitement and something new, as opposed to just fitness. For all the money that's thrown at it and for all the time that people spend on it, it's pretty simple.
Seriously.
It's really just you add resistance.
Yeah.
And you get stronger, and then you add more resistance.
Make it hard.
And that applies to calisthenics, that applies to weightlifting, that applies to powerlifting, that applies to anything you do. Add resistance, performance meets the resistance, add more resistance, performance meets the resistance. And you just keep doing that. That's it.
Yeah.
But there's this sort of like craving for doing something crazy.
So that's an interesting point, and since we're a CrossFit gym, and this is, I guess, technically a CrossFit podcast.
Right.
So you wonder if the CrossFit Games can stand the test of time.
Right.
And that will it just continue to be a test of fitness? Mm-hmm. Or does there have to be something new every year until, kind of the joke we always make is, until they're doing barefooted deadlifts on glass and they have to walk over hot coals and then, swing across 2 snakes that want to bite them and all this crazy stuff. At some point, it is, so last year, maybe the level of creativeness was pushed a little bit with the snail. I think that it's a unique object, and it was heavy and it was hard and all this stuff, and the athletes said it was challenging, so that's good. But at some point, does something get creative to the point where you just have to deal with pain, or you just have to deal with super cold or something like that?
Right.
And does that make you the fittest person on earth? Can the CrossFit Games survive? 20 years from now, can the CrossFit Games have Fran or heavy Fran, and is that still appealing to us?
Right.
To watch the best people in the world do 2159 thrusters with maybe 155 and a loaded pull-up or something like that. Is that still appealing? Or do we need to have birds attacking them while they do this?
Well, I mean, if you go back to that, I think Fran, to me, represents sort of like, in some senses, kind of this perfect workout. Because you have basically full body modalities. You have a push, you have a pull, you have a squat. I mean, they're all kind of light and whatever, but you have, and it's also the barrier to entry. It's fairly, it's not super technical, but it's technical enough that somebody who's technical beats out the person who's not, you know, that kind of thing. But you can reconfigure that same workout 100 different ways.
Yeah.
You could do Fran twice.
Yeah.
You could double the reps.
Yeah.
You could make it 155 in bar muscle ups. You could do Fantasyland. I mean, within the confines of doing a squat, push, and pull,
AMRAP of Fran.
you could do a 20-minute AMRAP of Fran. Now, which one of those is most exciting? Which one of those pulls in the most views? Which, you know, that's a debate for a different thing. But you can make Fran, and by extension CrossFit, just taking movements and putting them together, infinitely complex without making them novel and stupid.
Yeah.
And I would say to the snail is right there on that borderline, because I can see the snail being perfectly, that makes perfect sense in a strongman competition.
Yeah.
Oh, Atlas stones, and then you do the holding the cars thing, and then, oh, you have to push this 500-pound snail, and that's kind of an analog to doing the truck pull.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a classic strongman thing, but it satisfies all the same criteria. I think the thing that gets away from that is the softball throw.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of like a weird, oddly specific thing. It's like, well, what if someone's never thrown a softball?
It doesn't have anything to do with your fitness.
It really doesn't. It really has tremendously little to do with your fitness. So that's sort of like, well, maybe not that one.
Yeah.
But anything that involves running, pushing, pulling, jumping, climbing, I think is totally fair game.
So, on that note, to maybe be even a little bit more, just in my opinion, softball throw, yeah, a little wacky and stuff. The trail run last year, I thought was really interesting, because if you wanted to, say if you had decent fitness and you really wanted to win that,
Yeah.
So what was it you saw? We saw videos. I haven't done the trail or anything like that. I've been to Aromas and I've seen kind of where they were, and it was like a gnarly ass run.
Yeah.
But it seemed to me like it was more about ankle preservation.
Right.
So not destroying your ankle,
Right.
so you can't start rolling your ankle and you can't compete for the rest of the week. It seemed more about dealing with the dust.
Yeah, seriously.
It seemed more about same along the lines of the ankles, just kind of planning where your route was to run,
Right.
dealing with the crowds, knowing where the route was. But then on top of that, so there were a lot of things to deal with that maybe weren't necessarily how fit you weren't, and the CrossFit Games are about testing your fitness.
Right.
So if I really wanted to win that event, and I was right next to Matt Frazier and he was slightly in front of me, maybe on the downhills, maybe I would just jump and roll,
Yeah.
and sacrifice my body and break a bunch of bones, win $3,000, and say
Yeah.
I won an event at the CrossFit Games.
Right.
And does that make me more fit, or does it just make me a bigger risk taker and stupid?
Right. So I think what that kind of circles around is how much does the environment come into play, right? So things like, let's say the ocean swim was different by way of the waves were like twice as big.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you have something that is totally different than swimming.
Yeah.
It's surviving wave tempo
Yeah.
that impacts your score of fitness, that makes it kind of weird. I mean, I think, go ahead.
Well, and the ocean swim is I don't know if anyone would really agree with me on this. I bet you Coach Ben would. I actually, of all the swimming events, I thought the most entertaining one was the pool one.
Yeah.
Because it's something that we can relate to, or we can somewhat relate to.
Right.
Basically, pulling and pushing. So pulling while you're swimming, and then pushing to get out of the pool, and then pulling and pushing on the bar muscle up,
Right.
and then swimming again. But it was cool because you got to see good swimmers really excel.
Right.
And you got to see Jordan Troyan, who swam in college and maybe like tried it for the Olympics or something. He would finish his bar muscle ups unbroken, and then he would just fucking dive like 10 it seemed like 10 yards. Like it was a 25 meter pool.
Yeah.
He dove and a beautiful streamline.
Yeah.
For half the distance.
Right.
And he got to really excel at how good he was at swimming, as opposed to 50 people, and he can't get his stroke going because everyone's in the way and all this stuff, because he had to run to the beach or run to the water from the beach. And in turn, he can't really display what he's really good at.
Right.
And you could argue the other way, well, we're trying to test more than just swimming. Can you deal with that? I guess so. But I thought that was the most appealing swimming event, not to mention you could see it all.
Right.
And you got to see, people really struggle with it, like Rich Froning, and then it'd be interesting to test that event again, maybe add 2 more muscle-ups, so it's 5 each round.
Right.
And see
it was
if,
only 3?
It was only 3.
Oh, interesting.
Or maybe it was 5, we can look it up.
Yeah.
And see if people actually improve their swimming skills as opposed to improve their ability to deal with other people and navigate in open water. Navigating in open water is really freaking hard.
Yeah.
So they're cool. I think they're always pushing the envelope, and that's always great.
It's 2013.
Yes,
I think so.
Something like that. First or second year at the Home Depot Center.
Yeah, it's broken link. Anyway, we'll assume it's somewhere between 3 and 5. But yeah, I mean and to build on that, you know, we've commented on the deadlift ladder before, but I feel like the deadlift ladder is a great thing because deadlifts are supposed to be heavy. I'm not really interested in seeing someone do 100 reps at 50%. You know, going up a deadlift ladder is great, and then you also get to see, who is a good deadlifter? Who deadlifts well? Who deadlifts in a crisp way that I can relate back to my members? Who deadlifts in a way where I go, oh man, I am envious of their deadlift, right? Yeah. As opposed to that one event that they had that was the sledgehammer, the green block along the thing.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like, honestly, that seems like a cell phone app or something.
Yeah.
Like, hit the button, press the ladder, hit the button, move the thing. Like, you know what the most boring CrossFit Games workout would be? Ski erg, Russian kettlebell swings, sledgehammer, and a bear crawl. what is this? As opposed to something that's very strict and relatable, and I think all the snatch ladder things and all the pull-up, weighted pull-up things, those things are outstanding because you're like, oh my god, how heavy can someone go? Wow, 100-pound weighted pull-up, as opposed to, wow, he really crushed that weird shipper with bear crawls and ski ergs.
Yeah, and I think that's something where World's Strongest Man kind of suffers. People are relating to it more, but I think World's Strongest Man probably experienced some good playtime on ESPN, and some popularity with like Bill Kazmaier and stuff in like the 80s and 90s, and then it kind of fell off in the early 2000s.
Right.
Because people are like, well, I don't know how much a car weighs.
Right.
I don't work out. I don't like working out.
Right.
Like, the only thing that's interesting is these guys are really big.
Right.
But now that people are kind of playing with stones and maybe understand some of this stuff, I think it's becoming more appealing.
Right.
But I think it did kind of putter out because people couldn't relate to it.
Right.
I have no idea what it's like to pull a train.
Well, and honestly, you watch them do it, and you watch them like hold the things, and you go,
I could probably do that.
I don't know if I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like the huge log tosses and the giant stones that you can't even get your arms around. Like, yeah, of course, but I mean, there's some events where like, I don't understand why they're tired. Yeah. Like, is it supposed to be difficult? He only got 7 reps. How heavy is that log? I fucking don't even understand.
I think I could straight press like 450 for a couple.
I mean, probably. So yeah, I mean the relatableness. So I mean to kind of like bring it back to center. I mean, what if the sort of goofiness, because I mean obviously it's very easy to accuse the CrossFit Games and the CrossFit and all this stuff of being creative for creative's sake and being goofy and having nonsensical movements. But really, I mean, done a good job overall of not making it too wacky. I mean, imagine if the pull-up requirement was to have a med ball in between your feet, and people were butterflying with med balls in between their feet. Like, how fucking just strange would that be? Because now all of a sudden you have this factor of like, can you hold onto a med ball? Yeah. Because it's supposed to measure pulling capacity.
We also measure dorsiflexion though.
Yeah, it also measures something totally unrelated. So the Swiss ball thing is sort of like, so to share the movement, basically somebody's kneeling on a med ball, and it looked like they were just taking dumbbells through space like this.
This is the original stability ball movement we're referring to.
10-pound dumbbells. Yeah. And it's sort of like...
Oh, like 7-pound dumbbells, but yeah.
Very, very light dumbbells. So the shoulder engagement is sacrificed by the fact that the stability is so difficult. Yeah. It's almost like, well, why even have the dumbbells at all? Yeah. Why not just go through arm ranges of motion? Yeah. That would, in fact, probably make more sense. Be like, this is about core stability. You have to kneel on this unstable object and move your arms through space. Yep. Okay, cool, I'm engaging my core. But now it's like, but I'm also getting a light press, but not heavy enough to actually promote any resistance or stimulation in my shoulders. But then that also compromises my ability to balance, so I can't balance as long. So it's like, what is this thing intending to do? What is the focal outcome? And it's like, it's like the way to balance your core best, something.
And whoever does it, whoever the trainer is, the coach who describes it, would use very generic things to describe it.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's core, all that stuff.
Right.
And I can think of a million different ways, some type of closed chain movement where you're actually planted,
Right.
and you have to fight rotation or something like that. And we do stuff in here all the time.
Right.
That would be way more productive.
Right.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, and one of the things to always go back to is
So good.
are the best in the is Rich Froning, Dmitry Klokov, Adrian Peterson, and Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Are these guys doing it? Are the
Yeah.
top gymnasts in the world doing this?
Yeah.
Do you really think that your fucking trainer who spent a weekend getting his NASM somehow figured out something that Christopher Summer and Louis Simmons and even Greg Everett and even Greg Glassman
Right.
didn't figure out?
Yeah.
You really, and that's their life. You really think he figured it out?
Yeah.
I'm finding out with the bar muscle thing. It's killing me, so I want to find out what it is. It is 3 bar muscle ups. That's all it was.
Yeah.
But I think Ben did some I think they have a pull-up bar or something.
Yeah.
And really the feedback from this workout from anyone who's tried it either at the games or tried it elsewhere, it's just a lot of pulling and then you push and then you push some more.
Yeah.
So the bar muscle up stuck up because it was 10 rounds.
Oh yeah. Okay.
A lot of rounds.
Yeah.
But I mean, this would be an interesting thing to see again. Like, I don't necessarily want to see like everyone like, hey, why don't we swim? Why don't we swim to a funnel where
Yeah.
it can only be 2 people at a time? You got to fight to get there.
Yeah.
Is it really testing the best swimmer?
Right. Yeah, you can make something else that's totally different. Call it like survival CrossFit, you know,
Seriously.
or survival fit. And there's
Like
like
the
fucking
fight and
bows and
everything.
arrows and fire and
It's like the Hunger Games.
wild animals and shit. Yeah, exactly. The Hunger Games.
Yeah.
If CrossFit evolves into the Hunger Games, you know that they've fucking gone off the deep
They'll
end.
probably get more and more.
They'll probably get more
views. Yeah.
more
More
advertisers that way.
Yeah, but I will. I mean, to once again give CrossFit and Dave Castro and I guess all these people props because I always like to give them props because I think people think their job is way easier than it actually is.
Oh no, super.
They with all the tools at their disposal, they have not gotten too wacky. with it.
No.
Yeah.
I would say with a small handful of exceptions,
Yeah.
everything boils down to, you know, because imagine like the snatch ladder, because they've done, I think, just a straight up snatch, they've done a hang snatch,
Yep.
and have they done like doubles or triples or anything?
Probably.
I think they've done like a 3-rep thruster or something like that, which makes sense because there's flow to the movement.
Yeah, and they did like a 3-rep max overhead squat, I think.
Right. Okay. So all those things make sense. But imagine if it was a hang snatch to a drop snatch. You'd be like, oh, that's kind of a really weird thing to do.
Yeah.
To throw in this technical thing.
Huge limiting factor.
Yeah. That becomes your limiting factor. That undermines the ability to see what you want, which is how heavy can you snatch.
Yeah.
And it just that would immediately make it just weird for no reason, as opposed to how much can you snatch?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you seen the CrossFit bike?
No.
So Greg, I saw this somewhere. Greg Glassman is working with some bike builder.
Yeah.
And are you checking it out right now?
Yeah.
They came up with a CrossFit bike, and I like to mountain bike. I've been into I've ridden bikes. I really don't know much about maintaining a bike or anything other than how to ride it. Super hard downhill, big jumps. But it was a weird. To me, it seemed like a very forced thing to like buy this bike, and it's like there are great bike companies out there that make really good bikes. That if you do in fact want to incorporate biking into a WOD,
Mm-hmm.
you could use any bike. I think for a gym to program biking is very weird unless you had the ability to do so. For us, that would be incredibly wacky and incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Hey guys, go ahead and just like ride down Civic like a mile and then come back. And then we'll do, 40 burpees.
You make sure you put on your helmet.
Yeah, if you take off your helmet, that's not prescribed. But it's kind of weird, and maybe it makes sense advertising-wise and financially for them to have a CrossFit bike that people buy. I just thought there's something about it that didn't sit like great with me. It just seemed like, we have CrossFit shoes, we have CrossFit wrist wraps, we have CrossFit shorts, we have CrossFit pretty much everything for fitness. Do we really need like a CrossFit car to get to the gym?
Right.
and like a CrossFit motorcycle, and
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, maybe business-wise it makes a lot of sense. Are you seeing anything?
Yeah, it looks like a bike.
Yeah, it looks like a bike that you have in your garage and I have in my garage, and
Right.
but the guy said no, the frame is like ultra strong to handle all the sweat after all the burpees, and
Yeah.
like, well,
It's a wad bike.
so I saw that, I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? So part of me thinks there will be, to kind of off topic, part of me thinks there will be biking again at the games this year.
Yeah.
They're in Madison,
Yeah.
so maybe there's some crazy bike trails or something. That would be, I would love to see them do some, not the Pendleton, you know, they're riding through, I mean, riding through sand is such a fucking stupid test of anything. Riding through sand is stupid. It's not fun and it's stupid.
Yeah.
And anyone in our gym that mountain bikes, and Coach Brandon who mountain bikes a lot, and anyone who mountain bikes says sand is like the worst part. You lose traction and then you get unstable, as opposed to blazing the trail, whatever you're doing.
Right.
So Pendleton, to me, when they were riding, I was like, you're riding in fucking sand on the beach and then up in the trail and all this stuff. If there's some gnarly trail in Madison where they're gonna like do drops and stuff, and you have to balance on one of those like 2x4 ladders and all that stuff, I'd be like, cool. Let's see what's going on.
That would be pretty interesting. We could have them surf the next year.
have surfing judges out there.
Yeah, surfing judges.
Oh, that's terrible.
Do
Josh
CrossFit.
Bridges. You couldn't even fucking ride the pipe, whatever it's called. What was the second question?
Second question is, and I'll preface this by saying, you know, obviously our audience is sort of already engaged in fitness, but when I go out into public, because I spend a lot of time within a gym context, you realize just how bad the obesity epidemic is.
Yeah.
So maybe there's somebody watching this who goes like, oh man, I can't relate to this because it's just too beyond where I'm at.
Yeah.
So the question is, what would you do? Not like, well, how would you feel, but what would you actually do if you woke up tomorrow and you weighed 360 pounds?
So not a woe is me or sob story or anything like that. Are my joints healthy and I feel okay?
The assumption is generally that your only limitation is that you're now 360 pounds. You've now doubled your body weight.
I've thought about, I have, having like some injuries and stuff, I've thought about how exciting it would be to have maybe a healthy joint body
Yeah.
that needed to be worked into shape.
Yeah.
And I've also thought about developing something where I can zap my desire to work out and all that into someone, get them in shape, and then give them back their body.
Right.
I'll invent that in the future, so we'll see what goes on with that.
Yeah.
But no, I would, because it's a weird question, because I would wake up and be shocked,
Yeah.
and then I would be like, all right, let's get to it. I mean, it would be a challenge for me.
Right. So there I think are really interesting. One is the fact that there's an excitement in starting over.
Oh, yeah.
That is not afforded. Because imagine you finish college and you're like, what would you do if you could start over and go to college again? And the hypothetical is you get to start over again,
Yeah.
right? But the reality is that you're not going to go back to college, and the reality is you're not going to gain 180 pounds just to experience what it's like to
Yeah, probably not.
lose it. But you've already made the progress to fit, so you kind of wonder what it would be like to be fit already and then be transported back to basically square one, or
Yeah.
even negative squares because you're now double your body weight, and see what it would take to work through that distance again, knowing everything you know.
Yeah.
It's like going through high school again without, you know, making the mistakes you made, or your first job, or
Yeah.
you know, whatever it is. So, but the point of the question I think boils down to, well, there are people out there who wake up every morning who weigh 360 pounds.
Yep.
So what would you do? Step by step.
Oh, what would I do?
Yeah, what would you do?
I mean, if it was a mystery to me, I would test where my fitness is at.
Yeah.
So I would probably.
You would, because you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know what you were
Yeah.
capable of. Yesterday, you could do muscle ups and
Yeah.
fucking 50-inch box jumps, and
Yeah.
the next day, right?
Yeah, no, I know exactly. I know pretty much for the past, since I've been 14 years old, I pretty much know exactly where I'm at.
Yeah.
And how to challenge that and push that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't know. So I have to test and find out where I'm at. Can I do one squat? Can I squat ass to grass? Am I big enough that I'm limited mobility wise?
Yeah.
If let's say joints and everything feel good, then I would get to it.
What would you do?
This is probably a long answer. I would probably start with something mellow. I would probably develop some type of airdyne program for myself.
Yeah.
And literally, it could be as simple as I'm gonna ride a minute today, or I'm gonna ride 10 calories today.
Yeah.
And tomorrow I'm gonna add a little more until
Yeah.
maybe I'm riding 12, 15, 20 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
Just at a pace that's comfortable, and I want to continue doing it.
Right.
I'll see how that changes me. And then I would always make sure to, with my knowledge, I would always make sure that I maintain my mobility and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So when it does come time to handle a barbell and handle outside loads, I'm ready to do that.
Yeah.
But it would be testing my my ability, both strength, aerobic and anaerobically, on probably the Airdyne, doing very basic stretches like ROM-WOD, or maybe doing yoga, something like that.
Yeah.
And bodyweight stuff.
Yeah.
And WODs would play a role in this. My WOD maybe the day before was 21:15.9 of back squat to 225 and muscle ups.
Yeah.
And then my WOD today is 21:15.9 of bodyweight squats and toe touchers.
Yeah.
And you go from there.
Yeah.
I mean, really it's a pretty boring plan because it's step by step.
Yeah.
Because like we said, there's nothing crazy. I wouldn't get on a Bosu ball
Right.
and start fucking squatting with a barbell.
Right.
I wouldn't touch a Bosu ball.
Right.
I would. I mean, it would be exciting to be like, okay, I have kind of a blank slate. First, I want to make sure my joints are prepped so that when I can handle loads, I'm ready to go. I have range of motion, but also have strength in my connective tissue, but also just strength within the joint capsule and all that.
Yep.
So 2 years from now, when I am squatting, when I've lost 180 pounds and I'm squatting 225, 300, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
No injuries, no chronic things. I would get in with a soft tissue guy and make sure that I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
You know, money aside and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's not a sexy answer.
Right.
And I don't think, I mean, anyone that would give you a sexy answer would be like, well, it's all just about consistency.
Right.
And then you can add intensity.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, so people join the Biggest Loser or whatever, weighing approximately that very often, I feel like, and immediately what happens is, you know, they're working out like 8 hours a day or something like that. So, you know, like pretty extreme.
Yeah,
now, obviously, the confines of the show, I'm not sure how long it lasts, but they basically want to create a miracle in 6 months.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they do. These people lose all this weight.
And then there's
invariably what happens is people bounce back from the show.
Oh, yeah.
So if somebody, so it sounds like to kind of like even protract your answer a little bit more. So if you were 360 pounds, what kind of timeline would you give yourself to get to 180?
I probably, that would be the first thing I wouldn't do.
Right.
But if I wouldn't do that. Christopher Summer said this gymnastics guy is really smart. If you guys are watching this, check out his stuff. He's become a good, I don't know, but a good like mentor of mine. I really like what he says. It is writing a book.
Yeah.
And you don't need to write a book in one day.
Right.
You want to write and feel good writing and have quality writing as opposed to pump it out in a day.
Right.
So, and that's a tough question to answer because everything would be performance driven still because that's who I am. I would want to get back to the 50-inch box jump and a heavy back squat and all that stuff.
Right.
180 would mean nothing to me.
Right.
Maybe I don't want to be there. Maybe I have all this weight and I'm like, fuck, I can start hanging out at 225 and not have to eat a bunch to get up to 225 from 180.
Yeah.
So I could maybe hover at that heavier weight that I want to try and hover at and be stronger than I am at 180.
Right.
But 180, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not a year.
Yeah.
The recommended, the very conservative way of looking at losing weight is a pound a week.
Yeah.
So you burn in excess 3,500 calories, and you've lost a pound a week.
Right. Yeah. And it sounds like the first thing you would you run?
No.
So you do some sort of low impact.
Yeah.
I guess in this case, Airdyne would probably qualify as like a steady state cardio.
Yeah.
Just to get your capacity up so that you actually can work.
Yeah.
So as opposed to hopping into CrossFit just wholesale, or hopping into powerlifting wholesale, or hopping into whatever wholesale, just get some capacity going so that you can actually work for a whole hour, as opposed to the assumption is that somebody comes in inactive, 360 pounds, is that they can't even get through our warm-up because they're so fucking wrecked and beside themselves, fatigued.
Yeah.
But if they were working on the Airdyne consistently for a handful of weeks, months, now they all of a sudden have the capacity to actually sustain some effort, which is the key, right?
Yeah.
Is okay.
But that all being said, me being someone that loves the gym and loves to work out and all that stuff, if someone needs, I mean, one of the beauties of CrossFit is it can, if you've never worked out and all this stuff, you'll learn stuff, but also you are held accountable. There's community and all this stuff.
Yep.
I don't need the community. I don't need any of that stuff.
Right.
So I am totally happy waking up and being in my dark airdyne room,
Right.
and just getting it done, day by day.
Right.
But on that note, if someone is 360 and they've done nothing and they can barely get through a warm-up, I would still encourage them to come to our gym because we can help hold them accountable.
Right.
In a totally sincere way.
Yeah.
Not. I mean, it's if you can do it on your own, that's great. But if you need something else, then you need something else. That's totally fine. I would not start running until I felt like I wasn't wearing a weight vest anymore,
Right.
and I didn't feel things hitting and jiggling and moving around and all that stuff. I feel like that is excess stuff that doesn't need to be placed on my knees, hips, ankles.
Right. Okay. And then from there, you said just body weight. So what would be why not load up? I mean, your legs are strong enough to do it, and
Are they? I don't know if they are.
Well, you just find out they are. I mean, would you?
I'm assuming if I weighed 360.
Yeah.
I'm assuming if I weighed 360, it would be challenging. I would want to put in volume first.
Yeah.
So volume would come with body weight.
Gotcha.
To develop strength and musculature, but also connective tissue.
Okay, and I guess that's kind of what I was getting to, is that supposing your legs, because there are people that just are strong and can just casually squat or deadlift a lot, but if they're unconditioned, they're untrained, then they may be strong, but their connective tissue isn't there holding up. And not to mention, let's say you're doing let's just say you're doing a 135 back squat. Well, kind of, sort of. I mean, you're doing 135 plus 180 pounds of fat plus your body, which is the same as me doing, whatever it is, right? So you have the extra load. So body weight, volume. So order of operations would be test, some sort of steady state, low impact cardio to get your capacity so that you could actually train.
So I can breathe and all that stuff.
And then basically volume of some kind. So probably a push, a pull, a squat, and some sort of hip extension, right? Which could come by way of good mornings. It could come by way of just body weight squats. It could come by way of ring rows and ring push-ups. Or you might have the strength to do, small sets of push-ups on the ground. You could do sit-ups. You could do any number of things that were volume-oriented that didn't jeopardize your skeletal structure for future training. Until you got to a place where. So what would be sort of the introduction of weights or more resistance activity, higher resistance activity?
Well, if I worked up to 100 bodyweight squats and I was combining that with aerodyne work and I was keeping my heart rate up and all this stuff, then I'd introduce a barbell.
Yeah.
I'd introduce a goblet squat. I feel kind of bad that my answer is so non-sexy, but that's what it is.
Right.
If I had never handled a barbell, why the fuck would I put on 135 and start pushing myself through that when I'm still just kind of developing my bodyweight squat?
Right.
I would add minimal resistance and view this is a process that takes 2, 3, 4 years.
Right.
There's no rush.
Well, but that was kind of what I was hoping for in the answer, because to some extent I feel like
there's no secrets.
Somebody who is in that space maybe feels hopeless to the extent that the barriers to entry are too high.
Yeah.
And they're going to be asked to do something that they can't, or that the first thing that they have to do is start bench pressing.
Yeah.
And they have no idea, they're scared, they don't know how to do that, and so they don't start to begin with. Where, as we went through, it literally just starts with, can you move through 2 or 3 different things?
Yep.
All right, let's use those outlets until you get a little better, and then introduce some more things, and introduce some more things. So, to the extent that you have an aunt, or you have a cousin, or it's you and you're watching this and you go, how can I change my life and get to a place where I feel fit and good and all that kind of stuff? It just starts as simple as
walking.
Do something. Yeah.
Do maybe a little bit more, not even day to day. Do a little bit more week to week.
Yeah.
So if you get home and you normally don't do anything, maybe take the dog or on your own, walk 1 block and do that for 1 week. And then walk a block and a half, then walk 2 blocks, and so on. So maybe by the end of the year, after a year of doing this, you're walking 5 miles.
Yeah.
Lost a bunch of weight, feel pretty good, and you're sick of walking. Great.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's squat. Let's air down. Let's do some other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it's about, and it's about making things manageable and sustainable, and not trying to bite off more than you can chew too early.
Right.
And most definitely, if someone came in and hadn't done anything, today we're doing we're doing jerk work and we're doing front squats and pull-ups and all that. Like that's crazy. We don't need to do that. We would modify accordingly, obviously.
Right.
But you just need to do a little bit more than you did the day before.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. It's pretty good. We're at about the 40-minute mark.
Man, time goes fast.
Time goes by fast. Oh yeah, perfect timing. It just shut off. All right, thanks for watching, guys.
Podcast number 3.
Podcast number 3. If you have questions that you want us to just kind of off the cuff address, then let us know. Thanks for watching.
Mm-hmm.